This video is going to be about making bouncing type in After Effects. The first thing I'm going to do in Illustrator is I'm going to make a new page. First thing I'm going to do is in Illustrator, I'm going to make a new page. I'm going to make sure it's pixels, and then I'm going to change it to 1920 by 1080. It's wide. I'll go OK. So it's the same size as the After Effects file now. So I'll put in a bit of type. I'll make it a bit bigger, and I'll change the font. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go type, create outlines, and I'm going to ungroup it, and so I can put each letter on its own layer. So go to layers, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'll just start cutting. Command or Control X, choose my layer and go Command Shift V, which is paste in place. Command X to cut it. Next layer, Command Shift V or Control Shift V on a PC. Command X. Next layer, Command Shift V. Cut it. Paste it, and now I can see they're all on their own individual layers. So now I go File, Save As. Give it a name and pop it in a folder. Save it, and now I can jump into After Effects. And here I'll make a new composition. Where's our HDTV settings? There we go, 1920 by 1080. I'm going to change the background to white just so I can see it at the moment. So I'm going to double click in the project window. I'm going to bring in mouse. Even if it says footage here, it'll recognize that it's an Illustrator file. So when I go open, it will go composition, layer size. Go OK. And now I can drag that into the composition. Now the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to double click so that I can go into that composition and see all the layers. If I select them all and I control click or right click on the layers, I can go create shapes from vector. Now you can see the Illustrator layers here. If I click on this label, this color, it will say select label group. It selects all the other Illustrator files, and I can just hit delete. The reason that changing it to a shape layer is important is it means that I now have the option to do some things that I couldn't do with an Illustrator file. Distort it, and it also means I can select all of this and I can choose a color because it's a shape layer rather than the Illustrator file. Put that back in the window, and so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select one layer and go Command A or Control A on a PC. I'll hit P for position, hit the stopwatch, move it over just under a second, and push it up the top. With this first keyframes, so I will put the playhead to the beginning, move this down the bottom of the screen, hit the stopwatch, put in the first keyframe, I'll go just under a second, and I'll move them up. I'm just going to Command plus up a little bit so I can see it a bit closer. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift click on all these letters and I'm going to stagger them. So move the S down. If I shift click on the S, it deselects it, and I can move the others down, shift click, drag the others down, shift click, drag the others down. Now if I move the playhead over a little bit, I'll just fit this back in the window. Then what I can do is if I click on this first keyframe and I go Command C or Control C on a PC, copies it, and wherever the playhead is, if I go Command or Control V, it will paste it. The one underneath, copy, paste. So I'm just copying that first keyframe. Copy and paste. Now to bring in the time ruler, I can just hit N and it'll come into the playhead. I can play it, and you can see the animation is very linear. So what we're going to do now is we're going to select all of these keyframes, hit the graph editor. I'm just going to expand it out a bit so I can see the whole thing. I'm going to select around these middle keyframes and I'm going to drag them down and across. Grab all these now, down and across. And you can see now what it's doing is that when it bounces to the top, which is this bit here, it kind of almost pauses or stops. Back to the graph editor, and now I'm going to stick in a little bit of rotation. So that. So back to the beginning, Shift R, do the stopwatch. Using the shift key, drag it so it snaps to this keyframe down the end. I'm going to click off so that I can now spin this rotation number. Play it. And we can see everything kind of spinning around with a bit of rotation. Click on one of those and go Command A, and then I'm going to go U, and it will close those markers up. Now what I'll do is I'll drag these layers a wee bit, and what it's going to do is it's going to push them out of sequence a wee bit. So if I play it now, you can see they're just slightly out of sync. So this is my mouse composition. So at the moment I'm going to go composition, composition settings, and I put in something like 600. Now I can jump back on comp 1, And with say I'm going to go Command D or Control D on a PC, and then just keep Control D-ing and make some duplicate copies. Don't worry about trying to line them up too much, because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select across everything, and then with the alignment tool I can hit this one, which is distribute horizontally. That makes it nice and even all the way across. Now with this, I'll pull the playhead back to the beginning, and I'm going to move it one frame. Now I'll click on one layer and go Command A or Control A on a PC, select them all, and then I'm going to go Edit, Split Layer. While these others are highlighted, I'll just go Delete. And now with this, if I click on one layer and I shift click so they're all selected, and this will be a bit backwards, so if I go keyframe assistant, there'll be sequence layers. It'll do it backwards, so Command Z. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you click the bottom one first, shift, then the top, Control click, keyframe assistant, sequence layers, and go OK. Once you've got that and they're still highlighted, just drag them and we can see that as they come up, slightly out of sync. Now I can shift, make sure they're all selected, go Command D, and now if I grab this top layer, I'll drag it all the way to the bottom. Now these can be staggered. I'll pull them over a bit, and actually I can move them around. In this case I'm going to hit S for scale. I'm going to scale them slightly as well. I'll hit the U key, which closes them all up. I'm going to hit Command Y, and I'm going to just pop in a color. It's a new solid. Wherever it comes up, I'll just drag it all the way down to the bottom. Now, if I select these bottom layers and I Control click on the layer, I'm going to have an option in here that talks about layer styles, and I'm going to go stroke, and then with the stroke, what color do I want to make it? I'll make it blue actually, so it stands out. We've got 3 is the stroke line. I'm just going to click on that and make it 5. You can see it happen all the way across. And I'm just going to bring in that time marker again, hit N, play it. Just going through slowly the first time as it renders. Now if I want to make it just a blue outline, I want to make it transparent. Can't actually make this fill transparent, but what I can do is I can come up to the effects, I can look for something called fill, double click it, it's going to come up here, and with the eyedropper I can click on the background. All of these layers are still selected, so when I click it, it's going to change them all. So it looks like it's an outline, but actually it's just got the same fill color. I'll just push that in a wee bit. Now we'll play it. Again, it's going to go through the first time and render itself, and then it'll play in real time. And you can see the green bar showing us as it goes through and renders. Once it's done, there we go. That'll be working in real time.